Chucky, wanna play?
Hello and welcome to a new episode of RT Essentials. I'm Perry Nemiroff. When it comes to horror films, one of the many subgenres that has popped up over the years is that of spooky doll movies. Why has it become such a thing? Well, there's something about combining the innocence of youth that a doll represents with something awful and terrible, like a doll that loves to kill people, that I can say really appeals to me, so there's that. With names here like Chucky, Billy, Annabelle, Fats, Brahms, and more, this list has got you so well covered with some of the most spooky dolls you can find in movies, and one classic TV episode thrown in as well. So, turn your head around, a full 360 degrees maybe, and let's take a look at our list of the scariest evil dolls of cinema right now on RT Essentials. The Clown Doll, Poltergeist.
I'll go check the kitchen.
No, I'll do it.
And creeping, or rather kicking off this list here, is The Clown Doll from 1982's Poltergeist. This big-budget thriller was directed by Tobe Hooper and co-written/produced by Steven Spielberg, who many say also served as de facto director while he hovered in the background. In it, Craig T. Nelson stars as a man who moves his family to a new home that ultimately becomes haunted by demonic ghosts due to it being built on top of an old graveyard. And that's where the Clown Doll comes in, as it's considered to be an aspect of the film's main antagonist, the Beast, acting as one of the other vengeful ghosts. Its main purpose in Poltergeist is to basically serve as a distraction so that other ghosts can abduct the family's little girl, Carol Ann, and by serve as a distraction, I mean totally mess with her brother Robbie. The pair's big scene together involves the Clown Doll eventually sneaking up behind Robbie and pulling him under the bed to choke him out. Eventually, Robbie fights back, but at that point, if clowns weren't already scary enough for some, this particular one was seared into the minds of kids forever, and adults too, of course. After the making of the movie, Spielberg didn't like that the film got an R rating, and so he appealed it, and since PG-13 wasn't a thing yet, this movie is actually rated PG. So many traumatized kids out there. But hey, a PG rating means more butts in seats, and Poltergeist became the highest grossing horror movie of 1982 and the 8th highest grossing movie of the year overall. And while The Clown Doll didn't exactly accept any awards specifically, this movie did win a BAFTA award for Best Special Visual Effects. It was also nominated for an Oscar in the same category, but wound up losing to the big movie that Spielberg did officially direct that year, E.T., of course. Billy, Saw. Cutting through to the next spot on this list is Billy from 2004's Saw. This film was directed by James Wan in his directorial debut and written by Leigh Whannell, two names you'll hear again later on in this list. Let's just say, they really love working with creepy dolls. The story revolves around the mystery of the Jigsaw Killer, who likes to test his victims' will to live by putting them through potentially deadly and very painful games. And it turns out the guy behind Jigsaw is named John Kramer, played by Tobin Bell, and Kramer is the one who designed the mechanical ventriloquist puppet known as Billy. Billy has a clown-like appearance with a white face and red spirals on his cheeks to go with his smiling red lips and creepy black and red eyes. The doll shows up throughout what would go on to become quite the franchise and usually comes in via video, but is also known to appear in person too, or rather doll, I guess, to give the rules of the games to his victims.
Hello, Amanda. You don't know me, but I know you. I want to play a game.
In this first installment, Billy makes a memorable appearance at the end of the movie when the cops find him at the bad guys' hangout, eerily hidden under a blanket. But he's actually first introduced through a couple of flashback scenes. One when Adam, played by writer Leigh Whannell, recalls the abduction that led to him being trapped in a gross bathroom with Cary Elwes, and again when the movie looks back at the story of Jigsaw's only known survivor, a drug addict named Amanda. Saw became one of the more profitable horror films since 1996's Scream. See our Scariest Evil Masks of Cinema episode for more on that, if we have one yet. And as Saw's popularity grew, our Billy here became the face of the franchise. And speaking of face, that memorable mug of his has popped up Easter egg style in other works of Wan's and Whannell's, so keep an eye out for Billy just about everywhere. Annabelle. Annabelle. Next on our list of the scariest evil dolls of cinema is Annabelle from 2014's Annabelle. Produced by James Wan from the aforementioned Saw franchise and directed by John R. Leonetti, this film is a prequel to the 2013 movie The Conjuring and focuses on the origins of the popular Annabelle doll seen in that film. Annabelle, which is the second installment in the Conjuring universe, tells the story of John, played by Ward Horton, who tried to bring home the perfect gift for his expectant wife, Mia, played by Annabelle Wallis. And yeah, you heard that right, the lead actress in Annabelle is also named Annabelle. Anyway, that gift, an 18-inch vintage porcelain doll in a fancy white dress, ultimately becomes cursed and dangerous after home-invading devil worshippers come in to attack the couple and summon up some demons. Annabelle the doll was partially inspired by a popular story in the paranormal community told about a Raggedy Ann doll that is said to be haunted and later lived in an occult museum in Connecticut. And according to the lore of future Annabelle films, the doll first became possessed after the daughter of a toy maker lost his daughter Annabelle and accidentally summoned a demon who claimed to be her spirit and was transferred to one of her dolls. Speaking of which, Annabelle didn't just earn one film in the Conjuring universe. This one was followed by a prequel, the excellent Annabelle Creation in 2017, and the sequel, the also excellent Annabelle Comes Home in 2019, both of which are fresh on the tomato meter, of course, compared to this one, which is rotten. Chucky, Child's Play.
I said talk to me, damn it, or else I'm gonna throw you in the fire!
You stupid you filthy Did you with me?
Toying around in the next spot on this list, Chucky from 1988's Child's Play. This film was directed and co-written by Tom Holland and is the first in what would become a whole series of movies featuring Chucky the doll. In this one, a dying murderer named Charles Lee Ray puts a soul inside a popular doll named Chucky using black magic. That doll finds its way into the possession of a boy named Andy and basically messes up the poor kid's life. Chucky, a good guy doll turned murderer in Child's Play, has the strength of a full-grown man despite being small in stature. He was inspired by the popular Cabbage Patch Kid dolls from the 1980s, a Twilight Zone episode we'll talk about soon, and the 100-plus-year-old tale of a real-life haunted doll named Robert.
Andy, no, please. We're friends to the end, remember?
This is the end, friend.
As for Chucky's design, look no further than Hasbro's 1985 My Buddy doll, which also donned denim overalls and a striped shirt. I mean, hey, it's a solid look there. And the man behind Chucky is actor Brad Dourif, who plays the dying killer that transfers his soul and then later provides the voice of Chucky. And before you go thinking Child's Play was probably the highlight of this guy's career, it's worth noting that Dourif is actually an Oscar-nominated and Golden Globe-winning actor for his debut role in 1975's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and he also played Grima Wormtongue in the Lord of the Rings series, so you're welcome. While we're at it, the friendly voice of Chucky came from Eden Gross, who also voiced a doll named Corky in the Cricket Doll series, and the in-suit performer for Chucky, yes, they did have one of those, was Ed Gale, best known for playing Howard in 1986's Howard the Duck. You are welcome again. Chucky helped build a Child's Play franchise that includes 6 sequels, a reboot, a TV series, plus all that beautiful merch. Billy, Dead Silence. Making some noise next on this list is Billy from the 2007 horror flick Dead Silence. Once again, this film was directed by James Wan and written by Leigh Whannell and is considered basically their big follow-up to the previously successful Saw film turned franchise. And right off the bat, you'll notice that the puppet doll used in the Saw movies and this one here in Dead Silence are both named Billy. I guess sorry to all you viewers named Billy, it's a pretty tough break there. This film revolves around a widower played by Ryan Kwanten, who returns to his awesomely named hometown of Ravensfair to try and figure out the story behind his wife's grisly death. And like any town with a name like that, there he stumbles upon the legend of a murdered ventriloquist whose eerie presence, not to mention eerie doll named Billy, still looms heavy over the town.
What? She's living in the doll! Destroy the doll!
The voice of Billy is provided by N. Ray Tell, whose impressive career in the booth includes video game voices within the Star Wars, Batman, Lord of the Rings, GoldenEye, and Marvel franchises, just to name a few there. Sadly, this Billy couldn't help Wan and Whannell kick off a new franchise, as Dead Silence was universally panned by critics and performed poorly at the box office. Of course, that meant no sequel or sequels, but a cult following has since built up for the movie. And if Billy is looking for something to hang his red bow tie on, he did also appear in a Dead Silence themed haunted house during Universal Studios' Halloween Horror Nights in Florida. Now, how many of these creepy dolls can say that, huh? I'm sure that eases the sting a little of a critic's consensus that says Dead Silence is undone by boring characters, or maybe not. I am sincerely sorry, Billy. Talkie Tina, The Twilight Zone.
My name is Eric Strader, and I'm going to get rid of you.
You wouldn't dare.
Huh?
Wouldn't I?
Annabelle would hate you, Christy would hate you, and I would hate you.
Being talked about next on this list is Talkie Tina from an episode of The Twilight Zone. Tina was featured in the episode called Living Doll, which aired on November 1st, 1963 during the 5th and final season of The Twilight Zone. In it, Telly Savalas and Mary LaRoche play Eric and Annabelle Strader. There's that name Annabelle again, it's everywhere. Their dysfunctional family is made worse when she buys their daughter a wind-up doll named Talkie Tina that ends up being sentient. The toy seems nice at first, but crossing her proves especially deadly.
Oh,
So you have feelings.
doesn't everything?
Then I can hurt you.
Not really, but I could hurt you.
The doll they used for Tina was produced at a place called Vogue Doll Company sometime in the late 50s to early 60s and marketed under the name Briquette. But since Briquette wasn't a talking doll, Tina's on-screen portrayal is modeled more after the popular Mattel doll, Chatty Cathy. And wouldn't you know it, the person who provided the voice for the Chatty Cathy dolls is the same person who provided the voice for Talkie Tina, the legendary June Foray. The award-winning actress with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame was also the voice of iconic characters like Rocky the Flying Squirrel, Lucifer the Cat from Cinderella, and Cindy Lou Who, and she's credited with helping establish both the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature and the Annie Awards too, so like dang, you go Talkie Tina. Tina. And despite appearing in just this one episode of The Twilight Zone, Tina has lived on in the pop culture ethos, being parodied by shows like The Simpsons, Johnny Bravo, and Sabrina the Teenage Witch throughout the years, among others. The doll has also been said to be one of the inspirations for Chucky from Child's Play, and also the character of Gabby Gabby in 2019's Toy Story 4, according to that film's director, Josh Cooley. So, hey, that's quite the legacy for Talkie Tina. Fats magic. Next on this list of the scariest evil dolls of cinema is Fats from 1978's Magic. This psychological horror flick was directed by Richard Attenborough with a screenplay by William Goldman, who also wrote the 1976 novel upon which the movie was based. The film stars Anthony Hopkins as Corky, a failed magician who starts to find success after picking up a new ventriloquist act with an abrasive dummy named Fats. But as the idea of success takes its toll on Corky's mental state, Fats seems to take on a mind of his own. The rude and vulgar Fats, who was designed to specifically and very creepily look like Hopkins, is basically the sociopathic alter ego of Corky, who suffers from mental disorders and uses Fats to comfort himself.
Hello, everybody. This is Mrs. Norman Maine. My mother thanks you, my father thanks you, my sister thanks you, and I thank you. You have nothing to fear but fear itself, nothing to give but blood, sweat, and tears, nothing to lose but your chains. Here he is, boys. Here he is, world. Here is Fats!
Big stars of the time like Jack Nicholson, Robert De Niro, and Gene Wilder were kicked around as possible choices for Corky before Hopkins was cast, and of course, Hopkins would go on to play Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs. So, Hopkins took the part and he ran with it, learning magic tricks and studying the art of ventriloquism to prepare for the part. He even took the doll from the movie home with him to work on some things as well, but he got so creeped out by it that the director, Attenborough, had to come pick it up and calm Hopkins down in the middle of the night. It seems to be all worth it though, as the Corky and Fats role earned Hopkins BAFTA and Golden Globe nominations for his performance, and Fats the doll has lingered on in pop culture, serving as R.L. Stine's inspiration for the doll named Slappy, of course in his popular children's horror story series, Goosebumps. Blade, Puppet Master. Sharpening things up next on this list is Blade from 1989's Puppet Master. Directed by David Schmoller, this film centers around 4 psychics who are plotted against by a former colleague that committed suicide after he discovers murderous puppets animated by an Egyptian spell. One of those puppet dolls, Blade, is considered to be the leader and is the most popular of the group among fans. It's one of only a few to have appeared in every Puppet Master film in the franchise, and the only one to appear on all of the DVD and Blu-ray covers. So, in other words, he is the face of the franchise. The doll weighs in at 4 pounds and stands 1 foot 9 inches tall, requiring 5 puppeteers to operate. And he's pretty much going full gothic with a black trench coat and wide brim hat to go with his gaunt pale face, eerily empty black eye sockets, and long white hair. Blade, which is apparently based on one of director Schmoller's favorite actors, Klaus Kinski, has a knife for his right hand and a sharp hook for his left, paired with the occasional spiky bullet-like eyes that pop out of his sockets. I don't think Klaus has those things, but I could be wrong on that. After bypassing a theatrical summer opening in lieu of a direct-to-video release in the fall of '89, Puppet Master went on to develop a large cult following, not to mention a full-blown franchise. And when I say franchise, we're talking 5 sequels that followed this first movie. And in 2020, because Blade is clearly the best of these evil dolls, he got his own spin-off film called Blade: The Iron Cross. Brahms the Boy. And the final installment on this list of the scariest evil dolls of cinema is Brahms from 2016's The Boy. This horror mystery thriller was directed by William Brent Bell and stars Lauren Cohan as a young American hiding from her abusive ex in the English countryside. She's desperate enough to take a job as a nanny for a boy that's actually just a doll named Brahms, owned by parents who are coping with the alleged loss of their son 20 years earlier. The doll begins to move positions and do other scary things that leads her to think that it's somehow alive. But then we discover that the doll is actually just entertainment and a cover for the couple's son, Brahms, who is not actually dead, but rather hiding in the walls since he killed a little girl at the age of 8.
What is that? It's Brahms.
The human-like doll with a pale face, dark hair, and dressed nicely is meant to resemble the actual boy Brahms, who was played by Jet Klein in this film. Klein would go on to play Tommy Maximoff in the MCU. And it turns out the Brahms doll also served a purpose behind the scenes as well, as cast members would use it to prank each other on set. At one point, one of the actors got so freaked out that they threw the doll outside of their trailer and caused damage to the doll, prompting the crew to also create a replacement doll. Brahms the Doll's run of terror didn't end with this movie, though. A sequel, Brahms the Boy 2, was released in 2020 with Katie Holmes this time in the lead role, and an expanded story for the doll that reveals him to in fact be alive and demon-possessed. How about that? We did it! Our list of the scariest dolls of cinema. Do you have a favorite? Do let us know. And the next time you're browsing the dolls section at your local toy store, those are still a thing, right? I think they are. Be sure to think of us and this list, won't you please? Thanks so much for tuning in to RT Essentials. I'm your host, Perry Nemiroff, and now I have to go home and hang out with the Chucky doll that truly lives on my couch. Goodbye.